Hello friends and welcome to Srishti News. Today we have Mr. Baldev Vidnani with us, who is a taxation and a property lawyer. Let us speak to him about the property matters and his career experience today. Let him share it with us. Okay, here we have Mr. Baldev. Hello Mr. Baldev.
Yeah.
Okay. So please tell us, how long have you been practicing into this field of taxation?
Since 1965.
Oh, great. Okay. And how has the experience throughout been as this?
It has been a very varied experience. All kinds of matters, from simple, silly to really complicated ones. And now, of course, the law is getting more and more complicated. So our life is going to be more and more difficult in interpreting and also trying to defend people from what our finance minister is doing.
Correct. That's great. Okay. So please tell us something about a taxation law as such.
See, a tax lawyer is one who enables people to pay their taxes correctly. He advises them how to organize their affairs in such a way that they fall within the law, within the ambit of the law, and they pay their proper taxes properly. That is the function of a tax lawyer. The whole problem is that we have got a variety of taxes, like income tax, gift tax, wealth tax, service tax, profession tax, and you name it, any kind of tax has been coming.
There are always CAs generally to help people with their tax and property matters. So why should one consult a tax lawyer in this case?
The chartered accountant generally helps the assessee in preparing his books of accounts, and as required by law, if the turnover is above the benchmark, they have to get the books audited. So the audit function is what is the important function of the CA. Added to that, the government has lots of requirements, certifications. So the CAs do a lot of certification work, whereas a tax lawyer does a lot of what is known as consultation and advising people, and not only that, interpreting the tax acts, for example the gift tax act, the income tax, all these acts to be interpreted correctly. Often in assessment we find that the interpretation made by the assessing officers is a little off track, it's obtruse. Okay. We try to make it proper for the assessee.
Coming back to gift tax, sir, tell us what exactly is gift tax and whom can it be done to?
When there's a transfer of any property for a consideration, we say there's a sale or whatever you want to call it. But when there's a transfer of property without consideration, it amounts to a gift. Generally, people give gifts to their children, to their spouse, to their parents. And there are certain gift tax limits, threshold limits. In the good old days when the gift tax started, there were certain limits, but now there is no limit at all. The person giving a gift can give as much gift as he wants to a relative, and that relative is a blood relative, father, mother, sister, brother, in that line. Father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter, like that. If he gives a gift to any third party, then such a gift is taxable in the hands of the person who receives the gift. The recipient of a gift has to pay tax, whereas the recipient is the child of the person who is giving a gift. Such a recipient does not have to pay any tax. It can be any amount.
So please highlight on the scrutiny assessment.
See, when you file a return of income, the income tax officer has got two options. First is a mandatory thing. He does what is known as processing the return, and that is called assessment under section 143(1). An intimation comes to you that your return has been accepted. After that, if the AO feels that there is something that he has got to do, or he has some information, then he issues proceedings under section 143(3). The first is 143(1), the second is 143(3). Under 143(3), we have scrutiny assessment. In the scrutiny assessment, the ITO gives the opportunity to the assessee to represent anything that he has got to say about his income. And the AO has got the authority to fish for information. He can ask information of any kind from any source. He can go to the market and get it. He can get it from any other place. He can go to the bank and get the bank accounts, like that. So the scrutiny assessment is a assessment that is made by the AO after gathering the data. In the scrutiny assessment, the AO has a right to make any addition that he feels has to be made and is justified on the assessee. That is the difference between these two assessments. However, after the assessment is made, that 143.3 scrutiny assessment, the assessee has a right to object to it and go and appeal to the commissioner, then second appeal to the tribunal, and then to the High Court.
Okay, that is how the process is scrutiny. Okay, tell us something about your clientele, sir, and share an experience of your career with us.
See, a lawyer will have all kinds of clients. I would like to say both genders, ladies and gents. I will not say which category is stronger or better, but we have all kinds of clients. Individuals, companies, partnership firms, charitable trusts, and then we have what is called as AOPs, association of persons. Then we have these limited liability partnerships. So a variety of clienteles are there. They're all units for assessment. I believe that every assessee who comes to us comes with a problem. And we as lawyers, I as a lawyer, my job is to see that his problem is resolved. So in the process, sometimes we have very, shall I say, funny experiences, and sometimes very odd experiences, and sometimes very emotional experiences. These emotional experiences happen when people fight. Two brothers in a partnership come, or a company, they come and fight. So we have to try to resolve their issues. So we do a lot of what is known as family settlements. We do a lot of counseling also in that area. We counsel them how not to fight, or how to resolve their disputes and amicably settle their properties between themselves.
So, is counseling a part of like law practice that you are doing? Like in other law, we have counseling. So in property matters also there is counseling which is involved here?
No, I will not say property matters. We will say resolution of the disputes on the properties that people have. Whether it's a family whose tax laws we are doing, or anyone else, So we have within ourselves not arbitration, but we do what is known as counseling and enable them to resolve their issue. Ultimately, of course, they have to go to the court or appoint an arbitrator, and arbitrations are very tough. They take a very long time, whereas if matters are resolved on the table, so we advise them to give and take and say, listen, after all, it's a family. What difference does it make? A little more. A little more here, a little more there. It's all milk on the plate.
Correct. It's a family settlement rather. Okay. So as a layman, we feel that lawyer and solicitors are the same. According to you, what is the difference between both of them?
See, a lawyer is entitled to take that course, that educational course, after graduation. Today, of course, we have that 5-year course. You can do after 12th, you can do it. A solicitor is above that. He has to qualify to be a lawyer and then do a solicitor's course. So a solicitor is far superior to a lawyer. At least he's considered to be far superior. And a solicitor has got many functions. Essentially, it is behind the court, behind the scene functions. He is the one who prepares all the cases. He is the one who advises people. And he is the one who appoints the advocate who is to appear. The solicitor does not appear in the court.
So what is the role of an advocate in related to property matters?
See, properties, as I said, is a matter that always falls under the Transfer of Property Act. Any property, any transaction in a property falls under the Transfer of Property Act. So this act requires that anything that you say or do, any act of transaction, has to be on a written paper. It has to be an agreement that has to be made. So we draft out all the agreements. Our job is to prepare agreements. My job especially is to prepare the agreements, whether it's a sale agreement or a purchase agreement or a gift agreement or a development agreement or a lease agreement. That's it.
That's the role of what you play as a property matters here. Okay. So can anybody make a career in law or in the areas of property and taxation?
See, when we were in college, we were told that property law is one of the most important laws and the most lucrative. So everyone always thinks of practicing as a property consultant. Yes, property and taxes go together. They always go together. So if you have a good knowledge of tax laws and you have good knowledge of property laws, certainly yes, you can make a career.
Okay. Now, sir, one very important question to you is, after practicing for nearly 4 decades now, and you being a very active member today, where are the plans of retirement on the table?
See, retirement means, ceasing the whatever your actions are, they are ceasing. Seizure of activity. I don't think anyone should do that. A retirement comes when you are not accepted by the others. A film star retires because he doesn't get any work. But as far as I am concerned, a person like me, well, there's what is known as the intensity of practice. You spend a lot of time, energy, and number of hours. But whereas when the work is organized, you have a proper staff, juniors, then you can always sit and relax. At the same time, pay attention to the work and see to it that it is done. My job is to see that the work is done. So people come to me, they consult me, and I get the work done either myself or through others. So the painful work of doing the clerical work, or running to the department or going to the registration office, there are enough people in the office to take care of that. We do a lot of advisory work. Yes. So I don't have to retire.
There is no question of retirement also.
Yeah.
Great, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Nani, for giving us your valuable and precious time. Thank you.
God bless you.